The last person that hit me had a personalized license plate. Frantic. And her name was Fran. She came out. I was on the hood, and it was like, I'm so sorry about that hitting me. Like,
All right. Good evening, everybody. We're going to begin our June 2026 session of the Transportation and Traffic Advisory Commission meeting. If you will please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Vasquez, can you please call the roll?
Chair Emel,
Here.
Vice Chair Selm,
Here.
Commissioner Guerra,
Here.
Commissioner Weichel,
Here.
and Commissioner Callahan is absent.
Thank you, Ms. Vasquez. Can you please make the public comments announcement now?
This is a time and place for public comments. Registration for public comments is available for those wishing to address the Traffic Commission regarding items on the agenda or on a subject within the city's jurisdiction. Speakers for a specific agenda item shall be called and heard during that specific item. All remarks should be addressed to the Traffic Commission as a whole. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Under state law, public comment matters may not be considered by the Traffic Commission unless listed on the agenda, but may be referred to the city engineer for administrative follow-up. No individuals have requested to speak on this item, and pursuant to Traffic Commission standards, public comment speakers are allowed 3 minutes. And for the record, no written statements have been submitted on this item. Also, please silence all cell phones during the meeting, and please remember to mute your microphones when you are not speaking.
Thank you, Ms. Vasquez. So given that we have no speakers, we can move on to item number 5 in our agenda, which is the summary notes from our April 22, 2026 meeting. Do the commissioners have any comments regarding the summary notes? Seeing no comments, we can move on now to item number 6, which is our engineers reports. We have 2 engineers reports tonight. This will be one of 2. And before we get started with the engineers reports, I just want to clarify that these are information items, meaning that the commission is only going to be receiving information, providing input to city staff. We're not going to be taking any action on any of these items other than to provide input. And that is essentially our role with these 2 items. Mr. Mishiko, will you be providing the first report tonight?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and begin. Thank you, Chair Emel. And I'll present this first item is the proposed bike lane striping changes on Gainsborough Road on from Camino Manzanas to Greenfield Street. This is an informational item. Staff is asking the Commission to review the concept, receive public input, and provide feedback before final design and implementation. The proposal is a relatively minor striping adjustment within the existing roadway width and primarily intended to improve bike lane continuity to benefit school zone accessibility and meet current engineering standards for bicycle transitions near intersections. Here's a vicinity map showing the location marked in red. The project is about midway on Gainsborough Road between Moore Park Road and Lynn Road at its intersection with Camino Manzanas. This aerial photo on the screen shows the project area. It's a short 525-foot roadway segment. Gainsborough Road has a centered turn lane, single travel lanes, bike and parking lanes. However, approaching the intersection of Camino Manzanas, the westbound bike and parking lanes no longer exist in order to provide one through lane one right turn lane. Redwood School on the north side of the street has a driveway entrance along that right turn lane. A key issue with the current layout is that the westbound bike lane stops at Greenfield Street. After that point, cyclists and motorists transition through an unmarked merge area before reaching Camino Manzanas. Here's a image of the proposed striping concept, which would extend the existing westbound bike lane striping from Greenfield Street to Camino Manzanas. Consistent with current standards, the westbound bike lane would be striped to the left side of the existing right turn only lane. This is intended to provide a designated and more predictable bicycle transition approaching the intersection area. The concept also includes green bike lane markings with bicycle symbol stencils and a dashed green transition near Greenfield Street to increase awareness for both cyclists and motorists. From an operational standpoint, the proposed changes are limited to striping within the existing curb-to-curb width. No travel lanes are being added or removed. To fit the existing layout, the concept slightly narrows existing stripe median and existing through and right turn only lanes, but the overall roadway function remains the same. Staff also conducted field observations during morning and afternoon peak periods in spring of 2026 and reviewed recent intersection turning movement count data. Based on the review, staff does not expect the proposed striping adjustments to adversely affect traffic operations, including school pickup and drop-off activity associated with Redwood Middle School. This proposal is consistent with the city's updated 2026 active transportation plan, which the Traffic Commission took a look at a couple months ago, where it is identified as the 7th highest ranked intersection-related improvement. In advance of this meeting, staff has contacted the school district and Redwood Middle School to advise school representatives of the proposed striping changes and gather any additional input. If the concept is supported, the city anticipates implementing the striping modifications during the summer prior to the start of the 26-27 school year. Depending on scheduling, the work could be incorporated into the summer pavement project or completed internally by city field staff. Following tonight's discussion, staff would incorporate feedback from both the public and the school district to refine the concept plan into a final engineering design. So with that, the recommendation is in the staff report. This concludes the presentation, and staff is available for any questions of the commission and the public. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the report, Mr. Mashiko. Job well done. Does the commission have any questions for staff? I know that we have one speaker on this item, so I would like to hear the speaker first before we ask questions. So, Mr. excuse me, Nelson Buss is our first speaker. If you will please step up to the podium.
Mr. Buss, just to let you know, you have 3 minutes.
I'll talk as fast as I can.
When the green light turns on, you can start. The yellow light, you have 1 minute, and red light means your time is up.
All right. I am going into my 3rd year of 5 years of having children at this location. I come from the east side of Gainsborough, going that way. I realized that there was no striping there when I used to walk my daughter to school, and kids would have to ride on the sidewalk to get to the school. If you throw that back up real quick, that would be awesome, because if you look at the striping that you're proposing, it does absolutely nothing to get those children in there. No, the proposed. You still can't get the kids into the school. So, with all respect to everybody, that's useless. The issue is that you have kids on e-bikes. You've got a couple hundred people trying to drop off their kids in SUVs, and you got kids trying to walk. And there's no way for all those things to happen the way it's set up. And I have talked to Jeremy Paris, city council members. Mr. Mashiko is very kind to answer my phone calls. This doesn't work. This intersection doesn't work. Ever since they put in that entrance right there, which was after my stepchildren left this school, but before my kids came in, this has been kind of a nightmare. And the reason that you have such low traffic counts as far as pedestrians and cyclists go is because every parent knows it's not safe to let your kid walk or bike here. So it's a more of a, if you build it, they will come. We need to correct this so that people can actually trust that their children will make it safely without either having to decide to be, on a sidewalk that's 40 inches wide, trying to share that with people out running, walking their dogs, etc., or, braving going up against three-ton vehicles. I personally drive an F-250 crew cab. So when I decided it wasn't safe enough for my daughter to walk anymore or bike anymore because she was afraid to do this, I added to that. I'm driving an F-250 down that now. And that doesn't need to happen because I've got 2 daughters who are perfectly capable of riding bikes. So I ask you guys to reconsider this. What we really need to do is create a way for these kids to get to the school. I've proposed that we dedicate the bike lane and a walking path there. There's a number of trees there, and they can go away. If you go to the elementary school that's literally 2 blocks that way, all of that is sidewalk in front of that elementary school. And this is a larger school, needs more pedestrian access, and it has a smaller pedestrian access way. So I propose that we, A, get rid of those trees, add to the sidewalk there, or use that part of that as a bike access way for kids on bikes to get to the school. It's funny to me because county supervisor had a bike rodeo here last year, and it was held in the parking lot of Redwood, and there was not enough bike parking for people to show up on their bikes to come to the bike rodeo, so everybody drove to that too. And that's where we're at. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Buss. Does the staff want to respond to Mr. Buss's comments?
Okay, yes. Okay, yeah, the issue at this location is that, where the bike lane ends currently at Greenfield Street, there is basically this sort of undefined weaving zone until you get to Camino Manzanas. And so at least what we're trying to do is bring this location up to current engineering standards by defining this area where you have a defined bike lane taking you all the way up to the intersection. And in this instance, you have a right turn lane in the westbound direction. According to the engineering standards, if you have a right turn lane, you want to guide the cyclist to the left side of that right turn lane. So this is going to address those issues which would bring this location into compliance with our current engineering standards. I know there's some issues with sidewalks that are currently shared by cyclists and pedestrians trying to get to school. This may not address everything. If there's some pedestrian or there's some cyclists that are currently using the sidewalks, this might help them guide them onto the street instead of on the sidewalk where there's conflicts between pedestrians and cyclists. They can take the bike lane all the way until you get to the school driveway, and then at that point you can enter the school such that you reduce a certain level of conflicts on the sidewalks. We haven't looked at removing the landscaping that Mr. Buss had suggested, where we remove the trees and things like that to make a wider intersection. That's something that maybe we can visit down the road, but what we're trying to do is, this is something that's fairly easy to implement. It's identified in the active transportation plan, so we're trying to take advantage of doing something that we can correct now, fix some things, and then maybe later on the other issues with the sidewalk that might, that could be addressed later.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mashiko. Mr. Haydari, do you have comments?
Yeah. Improvise. Just to add to Jim Mashiko's comments, putting the bike lane in an alternative fashion or placing it closer to the curb would then have every car that's making that free ride into the campus cross over the bike lane, which would be less desirable. There's also the trees currently, if you're...
It was out of code when you guys allowed it to be built. That's the problem. You're correcting something that's out of code, and you allowed it to be built.
Yeah, if the issue with removing trees is those trees are currently providing a benefit to the pedestrians that are walking to school with giving them shade, particularly, in the afternoons, et cetera. So we've been trying to plant as many trees as possible. I don't think we would want to remove there you go. I don't think we would want to remove trees to widen a sidewalk, although I do agree that sidewalks adjacent to middle schools, would be better off to be wider. We have that situation at high schools too, and at Kalina. I'm sorry? We're planting trees all the time. I don't know when those were planted. Yeah.
My wife lived in that neighborhood 35 years. Now I live a couple blocks away. I know this neighborhood better. Speed bumps were put on the south side of Warwick, not on the north. I know all of it. And so you're telling me stuff from your best logical conclusion, but I can tell you the history of all of it. Mr. Machiko's kind of came direction, but looking up a lot, because it predates him. It's hard to watch you say that this is going to fix something, the seventh best thing you can do, and know that you're not actually correcting any of the issues that this was supposed to mitigate. I'm the one who brought this up in the first place 2 years ago.
Well, this solution will provide the bicyclists a continuous path.
Which bicyclists? I brought it up because I was talking about kids having access to the school who are on e-bikes. And somebody wrote back to me, oh, kids are trying to run you and your dog over when you're walking your kid to school on the sidewalk because they're on e-bikes? Oh, we're very mad at e-bike. I had to write back and I said, I'm not mad at the kids who are riding their bikes. I'm scared for them. And they're scared. That's why they're on the sidewalk. And you're going to fix it by doing this.
Well, there is a larger discussion about e-bikes on sidewalks, and we're going to be having separate discussions about that at some point in the future. But for the purposes of this meeting, we haven't done, I guess this is the typical treatment that is provided at every intersection, at every street.
The only reason that you're doing it is because I brought it up.
Okay, hold on.
That's what it had.
We need to take a step back here. There's an opportunity for public comment, and there's an opportunity for a response, but having a dialogue outside of that would be fine, but for purposes of the meeting, we need to stick with the script.
Yeah, I guess I'll leave it with that. This is the approved statewide modern current standard for placing a sidewalk at this particular location adjacent to a right turn lane that allows an increased level of safety, provides a designated and clear, green bicycle path for bicyclists to go continuously all the way to the intersection, which allows them to get into the campus and separates them from the vehicle traffic. And we're able to do this without impact or taking any lanes away or just significantly impacting the roadway. So that's the proposed solution to alleviate the missing bike lane currently at this location. I think there's other pieces too in terms of the no parking, but you covered that.
Yeah, I think that we're also going to implement a short no parking zone on that north side of the street in front of the school so that as cars are queuing outside the school driveway, they back up. We want to make sure that right turn lane is not blocked, as well as the cars are not backing up into the bike lane if there's parked cars in that area. So that's just a small component. It's probably just about maybe 250 foot segment that will be a no parking zone. We shared this concept with the school, and in the supplemental packet that we shared this afternoon, the principal agrees with the idea, and hopefully it helps. They think it's a good idea, and they support it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Machiko. So just to reiterate, the commission did get a supplemental packet this afternoon at 4 o'clock, which was an email exchange, including the principal at Redwood Middle School, talking about the proposal to put in the no parking signs on the north side of the street there. But before we go further, and I open up the questioning to the commission, the rest of the commissioners, just to set the table here. If I understand this correctly, and I'm just a traffic commissioner, so I just want to make sure I understand this and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but the concern that Mr. Buss is raising and the proposal that is on the table for review by the commission really is addressing really two different things, right? I mean, Mr. Buss is raising a concern about safety for children and also for pedestrians, primarily students at the middle school, on that sidewalk there, that north sidewalk there. But the city's proposal here is really just to facilitate through bicycle traffic heading westbound on Gainsborough through the Camino Manzanas intersection, right? So the way I'm kind of looking at this is like apples and oranges. Am I missing something?
Yeah, I think the way you summarize it is correct. We can't necessarily correct. There's some concerns about what's going on with the school zone in terms of how cyclists are getting to the school. But what we're trying to do is just bring this whole location from Greenfield Street to Camino Manzanas in compliance with state standards. So it sort of benefits the cycling community as a whole, not necessarily correct something that's going on with the school, but we're just trying to correct this so that cyclists who ride through this area and want to go west and continue on Gainsborough Road, they have a defined area in which they can continue cycling versus once they reach that area where there's a weaving zone, we're putting in this the green conflict striping and defining that area so that cyclists and drivers both are aware that this is an area where vehicles and cyclists are weaving with each other so that, there's more awareness and also reduce the chance of any collisions.
So I think you made the distinction better than I did, which is this proposal is really designed to benefit the bicycling community as a whole, not necessarily students bicycling to Redwood Middle School.
Yeah, I mean there's some benefit to that where if the cyclists are currently on the sidewalk, it gives them a defined path that takes them all the way towards the intersection of Camino Manzanas. And then once they get to that driveway, that right turn driveway that feeds into the school by the Boys and Girls Club, they can then make a quick right and enter the school driveway so that they would avoid having to ride on the sidewalk where there's pedestrian activity. So there's a little bit of benefit to the accessibility at the school.
I understand. So to Mr. Buss's point, though, is the city considering any other or additional changes to the road width or to the sidewalk to alleviate the concerns that Mr. Buss was raising?
No, we're not. Currently, what we're basically just looking to do is adjust the striping that's within the roadway from curb to curb. No adjustments to the width of the sidewalk, no removal of trees, no changes to the design of that parkway. We're strictly staying within the confines of the curb to curb width of Gainsborough Road.
Okay. All right. Do the commissioners have any questions for staff? Commissioner Guerra?
Thank you so much, and thank you to Mr. Buss for coming forward. That's what we need, is more input from the population that is affected by some of these proposals, because when I read it, I had no understanding, and I've lived in Thousand Oaks since '93, but I didn't have an understanding, and I live very close to Los Cerritos, so I know about the e-bike situation. I know about, narrowing bike lanes. So I guess my question is, have you looked at what the traffic is in terms of the cycling community during school time to see if this would impact it at all? I mean, has there been anyone out there while the kids are at school and are using their bikes, their e-bikes, and large SUVs, which is very common in Thousand Oaks?
Yeah, I made observations during various morning and afternoon pickup and drop-off periods. Most of the activity I was focused on was to the sort of like from the school driveway and then towards the east. As they access the school, I did observe that there were bicyclist activity on the sidewalk and as well as a pedestrian activity. I can't say that there was a high volume of cyclist activity, but at least my observations were that at least during the times I was there, cyclists and pedestrians, the cyclists were appearing to yield to pedestrians, or they, pedestrians would shift over and then they would walk in that where the landscaped area and shift and to avoid any conflict with cyclists.
So one additional question, you had mentioned that it will narrow if we put that in. So do you have kind of an idea of how much the lane would narrow? And would that then create even more of a jeopardy?
Yeah, if there's any lane adjustments or narrowing, it would just be very minor, maybe a foot or two in order to squeeze in a 5 foot wide bike lane that's going to be placed to the left of that right turn lane in the westbound direction. That's all we need to do is squeeze that in. And in order to gain that, we'll, take a foot or so from the right turn lane and a foot or so from the through lane. And then we have that center stripe turn lane or the center area where we can also take a foot or two.
And so the no stop sign will be placed where the trees are on that side, is that right? Not the no stop sign, no parking sign, excuse me.
Yeah, on the north side of the street, there will be a no parking zone that would be added, because currently cars can park there, and then during certain periods, it does appear that when parents are parked to pick up their kids, sometimes it did create some issues with the vehicle queue that backs out from the school driveway and heads to the east. So that's what we want to correct by putting the no parking zone.
So is it going to be no parking for the 24/7, or is it going to be short term?
Yeah, we'll probably put it during school zone hours or school hours.
Okay.
Not 20. I don't think we need to put it 24/7, but the busy school pickup and drop off times.
And I read in your report that you did go and talk to the neighbors across the street. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, correct. Before this meeting, we did mail notifications to there's 6 properties on that south side of the street on Gainsborough Road from Greenfield, and then to the west. We mailed out notifications that this item is going to be considered tonight at Traffic Commission, as well as my email and phone number was provided. So if they had any questions, they can contact me directly. So far, I haven't received any feedback or any phone calls or emails from those residents.
So when you say that you did reach out, it wasn't that necessarily that you spoke to the neighbors, like no one went up and got their feedback about how that would impact the neighborhood, the change.
Yeah, that's correct. It was just a notification, and then the notification did indicate that there would be some striping changes. However, it would not expect it to impact their ability to park or have any significant changes in the travel lanes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have comments? Vice Chair Selm?
Thank you, Chair. I have maybe a few comments and questions. The first one is just a process question, which is, why are we doing this? Like, is this a part of the pavement program? Because that's typically when we do restriping, but all that I read in the discussion was just consistent with CA-MUTCD. So is that a review that happens like routinely and then you update an intersection? Because I can think of other places on Gainsborough that definitely don't meet this. And I lived there for the past 5 years and at the SoFi Apartments and would risk my life to walk down the street.
Okay.
So I'm just curious, like, why are we entertaining this? And especially since it's number 7, right? Like, it's not even number 1 in the ATP. So where did this come from?
Yeah, that's correct. First reason is because this location was brought to our attention, and number 2, it was also included in the recently adopted ATP as location number 7 for an intersection. And then third, we have our pavement program going on at the moment. So we thought, okay, well, we took a look at this. We found that this location could be upgraded to be consistent with what the ATP was recommending, to bring it up to standards with the California MUTCD. And by doing so, we're performing our outreach now with the residents and the school, and then we'll get any feedback, and then once we get all the feedback, we'll come up with a design and roll it into our pavement project that's going on right now.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that, what also helps move the project forward is, being adjacent to a school. We always try to prioritize those as well. Being number 7 on the ATP is pretty high up on the list. I think when we mentioned when we had the ATP before, we don't only start with project number 1 and then eventually get to 2 and eventually get to 3. We try to do all of them depending on how opportunities arise or funding arises, and obviously the higher ranked ones are more important, but sometimes things happen out of order when there's opportunity or when there's something you can do rather economically, such as this, versus some of the ones above it might require multi-million-dollar investment and grant funding. So things kind of aligned on this one. And
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for clarifying. Just 2 quick points. One of them is, like I said, I used to live on Gainsborough for many years and would bike this route, which I'm just going to share as a citizen, is also really concerning, where when you're turning from Lynn onto Gainsborough, the bike lane, there is none there. And it's pretty dangerous as well. So just wanted to bring that up. But my last point is, I don't know if I necessarily understand what the remedy is that Mr. Buss is, and I know that we're done with the back and forth unless you want to make another comment, but I'm not sure I completely understand the remedy, because it seems to me unsafe either way, right? Like you're either being boxed in by cars if it's on the right-hand side of the turn lane, or you're having to risk going across a lane of traffic to get into Redwood. So I understand that maybe there is no remedy to the solution when it comes to a bike lane being that solution. There's nothing more you really need to say on that. I'm just sharing that I'm confused of what the remedy actually is. So maybe Mr. Buss, we could talk more after the meeting, and I'd like to hear more about what that is. And thank you for speaking.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, I think that's what Mr. Mashik was referring to, is that this provides 2 opportunities. First of all, it provides a safe path for the bicyclists to go all the way to the campus and beyond the campus to the intersection, and at which point at the intersection, it's a 4-way controlled stop sign. The bicyclists can, traverse that 10 feet to go across the lane there, or they can do it earlier. They can go into the driveway as you are anywhere along like an arterial, and there's businesses. You don't have to only turn at intersections. You can cross over the bike lane and go into driveways. I mean, it's at some point, you have to cross the traffic, and it depends on the comfort of the bicyclists if they're willing to do that at the driveway, or if they'd rather do it at the intersection and walk their bike across there too. So,
just one last point. I also used to walk this route every single day, and just felt so much more comfortable with the crossing guard. And it's just a very, very important place to have them, as they are always. But just want to point that out on my home turf.
Any further questions for staff? Yes. Commissioner Weichel.
To Vice Chair Selm's point, just to build on that, I was thinking, as you were presenting, Jim, the crossing guard data and crosswalk data would be probably pretty helpful, in addition to your physical observations, to get an understanding of where we're at on traffic there. And I also noticed later in the agenda, we're talking about city bike ordinances and updates there later in the year. I'm sure that's going to address a lot of e-bike usage and give us clarity there, which I think will also solve what Mr. Buss or help solve, or at least alleviate some of the issues that Mr. Buss was talking about. And to be clear, all this striping is going to be taken care of this summer prior to school getting it as well, right? Oh, right?
Yes, that's correct. We'll have opportunity to go through and come up with a final design probably by the middle of July, and then have that scheduled for implementation, probably by middle of August, and school starts up end of August, early September.
And bike ordinance updates are slated for fall, winter, or fall?
Yeah, we're just going to start taking a look at that during the fall and winter. So yes, that's a related piece where some of the issues that Mr. Buss was bringing up, it's related to the bicycle ordinance and e-bikes on sidewalks.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Just a quick follow-up on the crossing guard. This is one of the crossing guard locations. Yeah. I thought there was some understanding that the guard was removed from this location, but there.
Just to,
Yeah. Okay.
I would just say that the data related to that could be helpful as you continue to look at the site. That's it.
Any further questions from the commission for staff? Does not appear so now I'm going to close this item to public comments and open it up for discussion among the commission. Do we need further discussion? I'll just I'll just offer my 2 cents, which is I had the same question that Vice Chair Selm had, which is why is the 7th prioritized item on the list, for lack of a better way of putting it, moving to the front of the list and getting the attention now. And I understand that the city sees an opportunity during the repaving and work on the streets as is presently going on. And I appreciate the fact that the city is looking for opportunities to do the work, regardless of what position the project is in terms of priority, just to get it done. Initially when I looked at this, I thought, oh, it's an information item and it's going to be non-controversial, but should have known better than that. But I'll just say it looks good to me. I know that there's going to be, and that there are different thoughts about additional things that can be done at this location to make it safer for pedestrians and bicyclists, but I think if I had to live with the work that is being proposed versus doing nothing at all, I'll take the work that's being proposed. Any further comments from the commission? Commissioner Guerra, turn your mic on.
So I'm just wondering if there could have been more outreach to the school and to the surrounding neighborhood, especially during that critical time, because then that might have given more input as far as should this have, I mean, I'm guessing that the reason why you're doing this is because it's not it's more cost effective now and versus doing number one, which is Herbst and Hillcrest. So I'm guessing that that's the reason why, that it is cost effective and it's not going to break the bank, more or less. So, but I'm just wondering if if there could have been more time to really reference the input from the school, again, from the parents, from the neighborhood. And some of that might just be that there isn't enough staff time, but I think that when things like, especially when it deals with children, I think that there needs to be more consideration. So.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I would just, I'm not going to speak for staff, of course, but I would say that is part of our function here tonight, right? Which is public outreach, transparency, agendizing this item, and, broadcasting it to whomever cares to tune in, and create a public forum for people to come and talk with us about this, all for the sake of getting it more attention. But I mean, in the report, Mr. Mashiko did say that the staff plans to contact Redwood Middle School to advise school representatives of this proposal, but we can see from our supplemental package, that's already been done, and the principal is in favor. So
I think she was in favor of the sign, but I guess what I'm saying is this report has already been produced after the fact. So what I'm saying is that before the report is created, could there have been a little bit more diligence as far as getting public input from the parents that are going to be affected, their kids that are going to be affected, so that they have a better understanding of what to present to us. That's all I'm saying.
I understand that, and that's a fair point. Any of the other commissioners have comments on this item? Doesn't look like we do. This was just an information item. There's no vote that needs to be taken on this item, or no formal action for us to take. So we've, yes, we have Vice Chair Sum with a late breaking question.
I'm so sorry. It just popped into my head. Do we have a city policy, and apologies for not knowing this, but does the city policy on restriping for bike lanes require us to follow the California MUTCD? Or can we do our own configuration?
Well, generally, yeah, I think we are, as a city, required to follow the guidance because it's a state standard. All cities in California have to follow what's the guidance provided in the California MUTCD. So unless we have a different standard in our road standards, which we don't at this time, because I think what we're trying to do is just be consistent with the state and what other agencies are going to be putting in these similar type of roadway configurations. So that way cyclists, when they venture in other agencies as well as in Thousand Oaks, it's very predictable. They can encounter the same condition here as they encounter somewhere else in California.
Okay, that makes sense. And when we do the city bicycle ordinance update, does that have any bearing on design features?
I don't believe so, but and I'm not sure if that's something that we can discuss at this moment, since it's
Okay.
not on the agenda.
Understood.
Okay. Well, one other just thing that occurred to me as I was listening to you ask your question was, as a lawyer, I think that there's an army of lawyers out there in the world that look for cities to deviate from state mandated regulations and guidance on certain traffic related issues. And if God forbid something happens at this intersection that's not in compliance with a state mandated guideline, then there could be exposure. I'm not saying that there will be, but I think it's always a safe bet to follow the state recommended guidelines. So I think we're ready to move on from 6A, move on to 6B. And I think we have Mr. Ackert, who's going to deliver this engineer's report for us.
Thank you, Chair Emmel. I'm Bradley Ackert, and tonight I'm happy to provide you with some information regarding the traffic signal preparation for public safety power shutoffs. A public safety power shutoff is when Southern California Edison temporarily turns off the power to a specific area to reduce the risk of fires caused by their infrastructure. Not only is this a major inconvenience for the residents in that area, but it also affects the city's 136 traffic signals. All the city's traffic signals have a battery backup installed that will keep the intersection running for 6 to 12 hours without power. That raises the question, how are we prepared if the power outage exceeds 12 hours? Well, if the traffic signal goes dark, the California Vehicle Code establishes that the intersection be treated as a stop sign, with all drivers coming to a complete stop and proceeding when it is safe to do so. Our first level of defense is these retroreflective backplates. The fluorescent yellow tape is highly reflective and will help drivers identify intersections as they approach, especially at night. Here is another example closer up. This tape is installed at 111 intersections, and we're scheduled to finish the remaining 25 by next spring. The next line of defense in an extended power outage is to have a supply of 36 generators ready to keep the traffic signals running in normal operations. Before we started ordering a bunch of generators, we needed to have a game plan in place, specifically where to house them. These next few slides are going to be progress pictures until we have the final product. These 2 tough sheds were installed at the Municipal Service Center across from our traffic signal maintenance shed. Here's the view from inside one of the sheds. These sheds not only house the generators, but each generator needs a locking cage, chain, and plug to connect to the signal cabinet. Here's a picture inside the shed after we assembled and installed the shelving. You can see the cages stacked and organized on the shelves as well. One thing I want to mention is that these cages were custom made and fabricated by our crew in the welding shop. I've also been working with our municipal service staff to run the generators periodically to break them in and give them a few hours of runtime before an emergency event hits. This is the final product of the 2 sheds. We have 2 solar-powered ventilation fans installed to help dissipate the gasoline smell and keep the inside of the sheds as cool as possible. We have 36 generators, cages, and plugs ready to be deployed during a PSPS event. In the event where an outage is longer than 36 hours and all the generators have been deployed, we have 60 temporary stop signs ready to be implemented at lower volume locations if needed. And then one last thing in our preparation is the indicator lights on top of the traffic signal cabinets. These lights are wired to the battery backup system and turn on when the power is shut off to the intersection. This indicator light will tell us if the power is shut off without even having to open the cabinet. This is especially helpful during a PSPS event when we need to be as efficient as possible with our time. The indicator light is also beneficial in day-to-day operations. SCE has power outages every day for routine maintenance, and sometimes these outages go unreported. The indicator light helps us stay on top of all these outages and even swap out the batteries if we notice the indicator light has been on all day. These lights are scheduled to be installed on all the traffic signal cabinets by the end of this month. Now that we've gone through it, I just want to provide you with a brief overview of all the PSPS preparations we have made. All 136 city traffic signals are equipped with a battery backup system. The battery backup system keeps the signal running for up to 12 hours after power has been shut off. We have installed retroreflective tape on the backplates of the signal heads, which is going to be most beneficial at night when the signal is completely dark. We have 36 generators, cages, locks, and plugs ready to be deployed at a moment's notice. And if the power outage is long-term and affects more than 36 intersections, we have 60 temporary stop signs mounted on barricades that are ready to be deployed. And finally, we are installing indicator lights on top of the traffic signal cabinets to help notify us when the power is off. Thank you very much. Are there any questions on our PSPS preparations?
Thank you, Mr. Ackert. Good job on the report. Ms. Vasquez, we don't have any speakers on this item, right?
No speakers, Chair.
Okay, so then I'll open this up for questioning by the commission. Do any of the commissioners have questions? Vice Chair Selm, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ackert. I think this is so important, based on what happened. When was that? January before last. So we all know what can happen here, and just thank you for thinking about this and being so forward looking. Just a couple questions. I think one is like a policing question, which is what happens in this scenario when it comes to police resources and where they're allocated. And I mean, does the backup generators prioritize where you're putting police at which intersections, or can anyone speak to that piece?
Well, regarding when it comes to going to intersections that are inoperative, we usually get information either from our dispatch, usually from people calling in saying that the intersection's out, or from the city themselves. If we find it first, then we notify the city that the intersection's out. Law enforcement doesn't personally go out there and direct traffic, because once we do, we're stuck there until the lights are operative again. So with the resources that are out there, plus with all the calls for service, we can't spend a lot of time out there just directing traffic. So what we'll do is we'll have some of our traffic officers go out there and just enforce violations that are out there. If people are running through the inoperative signal lights, we'll enforce it. Usually people will see that we're enforcing it, and then they actually go to the intersection and actually treat it as they should, come to a complete stop, make sure, like it would be a four-way stop sign, make sure that they have the right of way once they stop, and then they can go through the intersection. The issue we have that we've seen with the city bringing stop signs out, it's a good visual. The only issue is when those signal lights become operative again, you still have stop signs out, and then the signal lights are working, and then people don't know how to treat it. They go through it on a green light, even though the stop signs are there, and other cars are stopping, and then we could have possible accidents. That's the only issue.
Yeah, so I can add a little more to that as well if I could. That's why the stop signs are kind of like a secondary measure, and we've expanded. A couple of years ago, we only had 6 or 10 generators. Now we have the 30 some odd, which basically should cover us, for almost 99% of situations that we can rely on the generators, keep the intersection operating completely normally. That alleviates any need for traffic officers to have to even be out there because the signal's operating normally, and then we would need to use the stop sign. So
That's really helpful, and good flag on the danger there. That does seem really tricky.
I actually have something else I want to add on that.
Sure.
So after we came up with this procedure and we made these changes, we changed the city blackout policy. If the signals are dark, what happens? And before we put out any stop signs, we make sure that either the police or the city inspector turns the signal on to flash in the cabinet. So if power does come back on, the signal will be running in flash, which will be effectively the same thing as a stop sign. We won't have those conflicting signals.
yeah.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Just one last note, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. I hear from you, Nutter, that it's, we're at the point where we have the generators that we need. If there's a future purchase of generators, I would highly encourage electric ones. I know that the technology is getting better, and Clean Power Alliance does have an Energized Communities program that can help cities fund things like that. So I heard you mention the smell of gas, and this, it's also potentially dangerous for fire reasons, right? To have a generator like that. So just a thought in the future that could help the city build more resilience and get some grant matching funds.
Yeah, we've taken advantage of some of those programs to retrofit quite a bit of our landscape equipment. A lot of our leaf blowers and other landscape equipment has been converted to electric now, and so definitely we'll keep an eye on that.
Thank you for sharing that.
Any further questions for staff?
I just have one quick
Oh,
question.
Commissioner Guerra, sure, go ahead.
So I see that they're all of the generators, it's fascinating to me, everything that you have to kind of think about when your power gets shut off. I mean, it's been an education being on this commission. So thank you to Public Works for keeping us safe. But one thing, because of the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire, I'm just wondering, how do you make sure that those sheds are safe from fire or potential risk for fire? I mean, are they graded, or, do you?
Yeah, this I guess I can help address that. Those sheds, along with all of our facilities at the Municipal Service Center, we are closely managed and monitored, and we usually have staff at those facilities. So yeah.
So there's staff 24/7 at the sheds?
No, we don't have staff at the sheds 24/7, but
no, I'm just wondering because of. I mean, it's not. I mean, we laugh, but because of what has happened with the Palisades fire and with the Eaton fire, I just was curious. How do we, if this is where we're going to be storing all of our generators, how do we make sure that they're not going to be safe as well?
yeah, that's why that goes back to some of what Bradley was showing. the generators being, the sheds being newly constructed, having the vent fans, and built to the latest standards to help withstand any, minimize any fire risk.
And they're at the MSC, the Municipal Service Center, with all of our other equipment. So if the sheds are done, then probably all of our equipment might be on fire too.
Any further questions for staff? I guess I just have one, which is, so in the report it says that the city has 136 traffic signals, but of course we don't have 136 generators in the event that the battery backup gets depleted. But I think I saw something in the report that said in a real serious situation, the priority goes to energizing those signals that are to be used for evacuation routes. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So not only would we put them at the busiest streets, historically to date, the outages have only, at the most signals that they've affected were 58. So we'd be pretty much covered on all the busy intersections. And then we'd be able to put stop signs at the other locations if needed, if it was dark.
Okay, I mean, I read that, so I thought that was...
But the other thing that we would be able to implement is, so these batteries are charging in the cabinet, right? So if you hook up a generator to the cabinet and you're running it in normal operations, those batteries are charging. So we not only do these generators run the signals, they're charging batteries that we can swap at other signals to keep them either in flash, so at least there's something flashing, or in normal operations.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Quick question for Bradley, if I may.
Yes, Commissioner Weichel.
So the battery backup system could last up to 15 hours, or approximately? What's the...
So it depends on how many signal heads that it's powering, but on average, it'll run in normal operations for 6 hours, and then after that, it'll go to flash for another 6 hours, up to 12.
Okay. Got it. And then in terms of staffing, I mean, if there was a catastrophic event, city staff are responsible for maintaining these generators?
Yeah, it would be our traffic signal maintenance contractor, their technicians, myself, and then any other city staff that we'd have on call that would be able to help.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the one thing I want to mention, it's time consuming. Let's say we have a generator at an intersection, we have charged batteries. These are heavy car batteries. It takes at least a half hour just to load them into the truck to go to the next location. So that was my point to the PSPS lights. It's so important to have those lights so we don't have to even get out of the car. We can drive by. That light wasn't on an hour ago. Now it's on. We know we have some time. We got 6 to 8 to 10 hours there.
Where would a plan moving forward be put into place? Would it be an active ATP insertion? Because it seems like there is no plan for staff in a fire, in a public safety event, mass blackout. There's no window of time set, right? So you would be committed. Do we have a plan in place for that?
We have a procedure in place to where depending on which circuit is out, we can prioritize which ones will get the generators, which intersection will get the generators based on number of lanes, average daily traffic, school zones, collisions in the last 2 years. And we created a procedure that the busier intersections are going to get the generators, essentially. But it all depends, to your question, it all depends on the circuit. It might be a circuit that affects 5 signals, but it could be 2 circuits that affect 15.
So not only are you good at your jobs, but you're going to be heroes in a power safety show. Thank you.
All right, so if there are no further questions for staff, then we can close this item to public comments and open it up for discussion amongst ourselves, if we feel that's necessary. To Commissioner Weichel's point, I do feel, I do sleep better knowing, that this stuff is in place, that much smarter people than me are responsible for putting it into action when it needs to be put into action, and just thankful for that. Any other comments? Doesn't look like it. Vice Chair Selm.
This sample SCE circuits, this isn't like all the circuits and all of the lights, right? It's just, what is, why?
That's just an example of two
Just an
examples of the circuits to show you what it looks like and that it varies.
Okay, thank you.
There's not 10 per circuit. It varies. Every circuit's different. Some are way bigger than others.
Final comment. You mentioned that what you have now is good for the city. Would there be any improvements if budget was no option? Would you go more electric? Is there anything else? I mean, it seems like we are covered for at least the short to midterm.
As far as going more electric, if you're out of power for 48 hours or more, where are we going to get more electricity from? That's the big. So right now the technology's not there. So we're going with gas so we can make sure that these are going to run.
Thank you.
Isn't it, well, I mean, you could get power from the sun. I mean, is it possible to get hybrid systems in place?
So as far as running the solar panel at the signal at the intersection, you would need so many panels. You probably have to cover the whole intersection just to run it. So they're not efficient enough yet.
What if the place where the batteries are housed is a battery energy storage solar system? So that's charging the generators. That's one option.
And you're touching on a future project that we're
Yeah.
working on,
Oh,
but
cool.
right now we don't have electricity to the traffic shed, the traffic
Right.
maintenance shed, or the PSPS shed.
Right.
So
And just a point on like in an emergency situation, where are we going to get the power? Like I had to flee during the Thomas fire and I couldn't put gas in my car because all the gas stations were out of power. So like, you can't necessarily get diesel and gas because of that.
no, you're right, but we have generators and we have our own gas station at the yard. So if we had generators, we could have our own gas.
Okay, so we'll close this item now to public comment. This was only an information item, so there's nothing for the commission to do in terms of taking a vote on any action at all. So moving on to number 7, status report of prior traffic commission recommendations. Does staff have anything for us on that item?
Yeah, just real quick. It's an item that the commission heard at the last meeting regarding the preferential permit parking program ordinance update. We're hoping to get that on the council agenda. I believe it was this month. However, there's been some conflicts, so we had to move that off until September. But we're looking forward to taking that to council. And that concludes that comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mashiko. Commission referrals, there were none. Item number 9 is our work program and commission schedule. We are dark in August. Is that right? Yeah.
Correct. All committees and commissions and boards are dark in August.
And we don't anticipate a meeting in July?
At least not at this moment.
Okay. So the soonest we could be back is September.
That's correct. We do anticipate having 1 or 2 items for review in September.
Okay.
So
Moving on to item number 10, Traffic Commission comments and discussion. Are there any general comments or discussion from the commissioners? Commissioner Weichel.
Very happy to hear about that parking permit situation being brought to council. Having some of the people visit, it sounds like something that needs to be fixed. So that's amazing that it's moving forward.
Commissioner Guerra.
I was so curious because that was one of the first times since I've been here, and it's only been a year, where we had so much public participation. It really touched me, and I felt so, how can I say? I really felt good that evening, that we really did something good. Not that we don't, but that was such a wonderful moment to see how the city could really put something in action that would really change lives. So I'm just wondering, how did you find out? Did the public come and complain, or how did that come about?
Yeah, it sort of was years of, I guess, learning, how that program works out there, what works, what doesn't work, what are the issues, how, trying to develop ways that we can fix it. And as the years went on, technology has developed, so now things are sort of digital, and now we have these readers where, you just scan a license plate nowadays, and, that can tell you whether or not there's a permit is valid or not. So now with technology sort of maturing over the years, now we have a new tool to look into, to implement and see if that might help correct the situation out there. And for that item, we did notify every property that was out there. We did a large mailing. I think it was 540 properties were notified that this item was going to Traffic Commission. So that might explain why the participation and turnout was very strong.
Thank you for doing that. It actually, it really worked to get that community mobilized to come in here. Very impressive.
All right, moving on to item number 11, future meetings. We just covered that briefly, so I think we'll likely be back here on September 23rd of this year. And I don't think there's any further business, so with that, we'll adjourn this meeting, and wishing everybody a good night.